Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I remember back when I was a young driver a while ago, I actually got my permit as soon as I was allowed to legally, and I had my permit for a long time. And so I think I got my permit when I was about 15 years and 3 months old. So you're allowed to get your permit at 15 and your driver's license at 16, so long as you had your permit for a certain length of time. And it just worked out that way, that I could take driver's ed back when I was offered through the public school system. I took driver's ed, got my permit, had my permit for quite some time. The second I turned 16, I ran in and got my driver's license. And that's changed a bit over the years. I know a lot of kids these days don't really care that much about getting driver's license. I got friends who can drive me. I can take Uber. Somewhere down the road, though, you got to get a driver's license. But I remember back when I was a kid, we wanted a driver's license. So this story that Ralph sent me out of Canada is one of these ones that's a head scratcher, as we say. From driving.ca, Lorraine Sommerfeld writes a column about bad drivers called Bad Driver of the Week. And she entitled this one, Starting Your Driving Career Off on the Wrong Foot. Now, this guy who did this is 28 years old. He's from Ontario, and he's a new driver. So he didn't get his license young like I did. He got it when he was 28. And he's got one of them graduated licenses, and a lot of places are doing this now. In America, many states have got this. And apparently they've got it in Ontario as well. But they give you a permit. The first kind of permit in America, quite often like I had, is you can only drive with someone else in your car in certain conditions. And then if you get a graduated license, there often are limitations to do other things also. So I'm not sure exactly what they have in Ontario, but this guy had a G1, which is a new level 1 driver's license. And he's from Kingston, Ontario. And he got picked up by the police on February 21st, at least stopped by the police, and given a pile of citations. And by pile, I mean that's like a actual unit of measure. You know that most tickets only have room on them for like 3 or 4 actual code violations? And so when someone came into my office in the old days carrying a stack of tickets, I'm like, okay, this is going to get ugly real fast. But this person, and we don't know the exact facts of the complete traffic stop, except that it happened somewhere on the 401. And for those of you who are familiar with Ontario, you know there's a couple major highways, the 401, the 402, and the 403. And if you drive, say, from like Michigan through Canada to get to New York, I think you wind up on all 3 of them if you play your cards right. So also, if you are a brand new driver, you're not allowed to drive on major highways like that just yet. But you're also not supposed to have alcohol in your system. So, hey. So the guy was stopped on the 401. And as the police officer ran through some basic checks, turns out that he gave the wrong address. He didn't have plates on the car, had no permit for the car, no insurance for the car. Now, you have to understand that not having plates in your car is a trap for the stupid. Police officer's driving along one day and goes, I'd like to pull somebody over, but I haven't got a good reason. I'm just kidding. And suddenly a car goes by with no plates on it. It doesn't get any easier than that. That's like you're out fishing and a big old fish just jumps into your boat. It's the type of fish you're fishing for, and it's a keeper. Just jumps in. Hey, take me home. I'm lonely. Car drives by with no plates on it. Of course you're going to get pulled over. So, like I said, trap for the stupid. So, after he gets pulled over and they discover all of these things, the police officer breaks out his ticket book, breaks out a writing utensil, and starts writing. Here's what the man was written for. And it appears to be 9 different violations. And again, remember, this guy just got his license. Now, he is 28 years old. He's a little bit older than the typical young driver, but he's still on the G1 license. So, young driver, and one of the things young drivers have as a limitation on them, they're not allowed to have any alcohol in their system. It's 0 tolerance. Guess what? Charge number 1, operation while impaired. Right off the bat. Charge number 2, operating a motor vehicle while over the legal blood alcohol limit. So, those two sound a lot alike, but if you glance down below, you see number 3, novice driver with blood alcohol concentration above 0. So apparently, now I'm not sure if the first 2 overlap in such a way that you can only be convicted of one and not the other, but I bet you can be convicted of at least 2 of these 3 because there's a zero tolerance. They can get you for that. And if you're beyond the limit, they can probably also get you for that. They're two different offenses. So apparently he had alcohol in the system, and as a young driver, you're not allowed to have any. It's like I said, zero tolerance. So operating while impaired, operating a motor vehicle over the legal blood alcohol limit. Then we have unaccompanied by qualified driver. He's driving by himself. And it turns out that the G1 level says that you can only be driving with somebody in the car with you who is a qualified driver. Seems like a good idea for a young driver. Then charge number 4 is driving on a prohibited highway. Turns out you cannot be on the freeways, such as the 401, presumably the 402, maybe even the 403, without having the next level up license at least. But this license right here does not allow you to be driving on a prohibited highway. And presumably, if you went to driver's ed and passed the test to get this license, you would know this, right? Novice driver, blood alcohol over 0, told you about that one. Failed to apply for permit on becoming an owner. So bought a car and didn't get the permit. I'm assuming that's what they're talking about there. Failing to apply for a permit on becoming an owner. Must be the owner of the car. Driving the motor vehicle with no plates. Driving the motor vehicle with no plates. Again, I mean, you've seen this before. I've seen this before. You're driving down the road, you see a car with no plates on it. Then you look and you see the little paper tag in the window and you go, oh, okay, it's a new car, right? Every now and then, though, you see one where there is no paper tag, and you're going, there's no tag. It's often a beater. But they're just asking to get pulled over. Now, they might just be going a short, quick from here to here or something like that, hoping not to get caught, but this guy's out on the major freeway, 401. Fail to notify change of address, and operating motor vehicle without insurance. These are all no-nos, pretty much everywhere you go. I got to tell you, though, that as I read through this and read between the lines, one of the things that I find amusing is the fail to notify change of address. And think this through now for a moment. If you've ever been pulled over by a police officer, you'll know that they often say, license and registration. And I've done entire videos on how to behave during traffic stops, and that's a whole science unto itself. But the officer says, license and registration. And they often glance at your license and look at you, make sure that you are the person who is purported to be in the license. And then they'll often ask some basic follow-up questions. And one of them often is this your current address? And in Michigan, for instance, if you file for a change of address on your driver's license, they'll often just send you a sticker and say, go ahead and slap this sticker on the back of your license. So the front will show your old address, but the back will show your current address. So more often than not, officer gets the license from you and flips it over and looks at the back. It's just what they do. So the only way that this officer knew that this person had failed to change addresses is they looked at the license and said, oh, is this your current address? The person says, no. Now, I'm not advising anyone to lie to a police officer. I am questioning if you have to speak to a police officer, and I'm not sure what the law is in Canada. In America, of course, the interaction is regulated to some degree, and I would encourage you to do what you can to protect your own interests. But when I see somebody who's written up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I counted right the first time, 9 different traffic offenses, and one of them is failed to notify change of address, you know that that's not what upset the police officer. There's something else going on here. And I suspect what's going on here is the cop is out on the 401 and he sees a car go by with no plate on it. No plate. So that's a gimme, okay? Fish in a barrel, to use another fishing analogy. Although you don't fish for a fish in a barrel, you usually use something else. But car goes by with no plate on it. Pulls the guy over. It's not a kid. It's 28 years old. License and registration, please. But he hands over a graduated license, and it's a G1. Okay? G1 license. Now the police officer's looking at this going, a 28-year-old, new driver with no plate on the car, and says, license, registration. Well, proof of insurance. At no registration, no insurance, no plate. At this point, do I smell alcohol? Because any smell of an alcoholic beverage at this point would be an indication of something wrong because there's a zero tolerance on the alcohol. So this is an example where a police officer encountered somebody who had done everything so staggeringly wrong that he had to say, you know something, I'm throwing the book at this person. Break out the ticket book, sit down, bring me some extra pens and some coffee. It might take some time, but we're going to start writing out tickets. And so the young driver, he's 28 years old, but he's only been driving a little while. He's got the G1 license. Again, got a ticket or tickets, operating while impaired, operating while over the legal blood limit, unaccompanied by a qualified driver, driving on a prohibited highway, blood alcohol above 0, failed to apply for permit, no plates, change of address wrong, and no insurance. It's pretty much it. This is the trifecta. 9, right? It's a trifecta squared. The only thing that could have been worse here is if the guy had gotten in an accident or something of that sort. And I also noticed that there was no allegations here of any traffic offenses such as speeding or running a red light or anything like that. So it could have been a little worse, but not much. Not much. So this is the bad driver of the week, and I have to imagine that this guy's, without any question, just give it to him. 28-year-old new Ontario driver looked to be trying to break every rule in the book, Lorraine Sommerfeld writes. Ralph sent it to me. Thanks a lot. From driving.ca. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. I keep a lighter in my back pocket all the time. I'm not a smoker. I'm old school, and I just really like certain songs.